Okay, you're ready to go.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'd like to call the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Couture, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Rice,
Present.
Alderwoman Peel, Alderman Stevens,
Here.
Alderman Grass,
Here.
Chair Spencer,
Present.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Couture, Alderwoman Peel. We have five present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, I'd to entertain a motion. The first order of business is approval of the minutes from Tuesday, December 6, 2022. I'll entertain a motion on the approval of those minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from the aforementioned date.
Second.
With that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Couture, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel,
Aye.
Alderman Stevens,
Aye.
Alderman Grass,
Aye.
Chair Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer, Alderman Couture. We have 6 aye votes.
Thank you. Seeing that pass. The only order of business that we have today, and the reason for this hearing is to hear Resolution 168. And I see that we have some speakers here before us, but I don't see an official list of speakers. Am I missing it somewhere?
It's in the drive.
Oh, it is in the drive. My apologies for that. Okay, so I just want to make sure I've got we do have that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, excellent. So with that, I'll turn it over to the sponsor, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, to introduce the resolution before us today. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, I think you're still on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I was. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Madam Clerk, I want to see if you could please read Resolution 168.
Resolution number 168, supporting SEIU's appeal on behalf of non-union janitors and workers with disabilities at the 22nd Circuit Court. Whereas the contract for janitorial services at the 22nd Circuit Court is a local city contract under the jurisdiction of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment. And whereas non-union janitors and people with disabilities employed at the 22nd Circuit Court are an essential part of our workforce. And whereas Missouri unemployment law does not apply to service performed in a facility conducted for the purpose of carrying out a program of rehabilitation for individuals whose earning capacity is impaired by age or physical or mental deficiency or injury, or providing remunerative work for individuals who, because of their impaired physical or mental capacity, cannot be readily absorbed in the competitive labor market by an individual receiving such rehabilitation or remunerative work. Missouri Rev. Stat 288.03494. And whereas Challenge Unlimited evokes that state law exemption denying janitors with disabilities at the 22nd Circuit Court access to unemployment insurance, UI benefits, and whereas in contrast, UI benefits are provided to non-disabled janitors who perform the same services and labor as janitors with disabilities at the 22nd Circuit Court. And whereas it is in the best interest of our city to thoughtfully consider such important factors as the previous conduct, honesty, integrity, skill, business judgment, and experience of prospective contractors during the request for proposal process. Now, therefore, be it resolved that is in the interest of our city to contract janitor services with a responsible provider at the 22nd Circuit Court that will uphold the highest industry standards. And be it further resolved that the Board of Aldermen supports challenged unlimited workers striving to organize a union that will provide job protection and equality for all hardworking janitors at the 22nd Circuit Court. Introduced this day, 12th day of January 23rd, by the Honorable Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman 26th Ward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I think I believe clearly the resolution speaks for itself, and we all are here in our responsibility and our positions and our platforms to use our voices in advocacy and in support for this resolution and the movement, hopefully, that this resolution will create. So with that, Madam Chairwoman, I want to see if I can call up my first speaker, if we can call up my first speaker.
Please do.
I think I'm not sure. Are you going to swear him in or the?
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. So the first speaker on our list here is
Miss Belinda
Belinda.
Hutchinson.
Madam Clerk, would you mind swearing in our speakers here today?
Do you, okay? Are we going to do them all at the same time, or we're going to do them individually?
Well, I think first we wanted to let Mr. Nim,
Okay,
and we can still swear them all in at the same time, but the order, I think we were going to go first.
okay. well,
Do
Mr.
we have
Nim-
all six? Do we have all six speakers here with us right now to swear in at the same time?
I see Claudia, I see Mr. Nim, I see. No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. Why don't we just go ahead? Why don't we just do it quickly before each speaker? So Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, you can call them in the order you prefer.
I keep muting myself. Keep muting myself. I'm sorry. I will first go with Mr. Nim.
Okay. Mr. Nim, could you raise your right hand? Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so affirm.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ari Naaman. I'm here today to testify on behalf of the Service Employees International Union, an organization of 2 million members united by the belief in the dignity and worth of workers and dedicated to creating a more just and humane society. I serve as a consultant to SEIU on disability employment policy. Prior to working with SEIU, I served for 10 years as executive director of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and for 5 years, President Obama's appointees to the National Council on Disability. I'm here today to provide our endorsement for resolution number 168, supporting SEIU's appeal on behalf of non-union janitors and workers with disabilities at the 22nd Circuit Court. In particular, I intend to call the committee's attention to the inappropriateness of challenges claiming of a state law exemption that does not apply to the 22nd Circuit Court. Janitors with disabilities coverage under unemployment insurance law, and to also urge the committee to ensure that in the event that the 22nd Circuit Court contract flips to a new contractor, the existing workforce. Over the last 4 years, workers at Challenge Unlimited's 22nd Circuit Court contract have sought to form a union to provide themselves with job protections and equality. In that time, we've identified serious concerns regarding Challenge's behavior with workers with disabilities, concerns that we believe merit oversight as part of this committee. Among the many motivations the workers at the 22nd Circuit Court have to pursue unionization is Challenge's discriminatory distinction between workers with and without disabilities performing the same job. Whereas janitors without disabilities employed by Challenge on the courthouse contract are covered by UI benefits, the company maintains a separate employee handbook for workers with disabilities, whom it classifies as clients rather than employees, and denies these workers UI coverage. I've submitted to the clerk a copy of Challenge's client handbook, which we wish to enter into the record. Page 51 of the client handbook indicates that challenge clients cannot get unemployment compensation if they stop working at a company site, as the company does not pay towards unemployment insurance on money earned for these workers. Challenge asserts its inclusion under a Missouri unemployment law exemption that exempts services performed in a facility conducted for the purpose of carrying out a program of rehabilitation for individuals whose earning capacity is impaired by age or physical or mental deficiency or injury, or providing remunerative work for individuals who, because of their impaired physical or mental capacity, cannot be readily absorbed in the competitive labor market by an individual receiving such rehabilitation or remunerative work. Challenge maintains that the 22nd Circuit Courthouse is covered by this exemption. However, the contract was awarded via typical procurement processes open to any qualified company and was not set up for the rehabilitation of people with disabilities. The work is conducted within the courthouse itself, rather than in any special facility for rehabilitation purposes. Challenges workers with disabilities are not subject to separate disciplinary or production standards, and workers with disabilities who have spoken to us have shared that they did not receive training or rehabilitation services while employed. With the exception of being denied access to unemployment insurance, they're effectively performing identical jobs to their non-disabled counterparts. Now, Challenge appears to operate the 22nd Circuit Courthouse contract according to rules it applies to contracts it possesses through the federal government's Ability One program. Ability One was established under the Javits-Wagner-O'Day Act to provide employment opportunities to persons with significant disabilities by setting aside contracts to nonprofit entities that predominantly employ workers with disabilities. Indeed, in paperwork Challenge has provided to its workers, the company mistakenly and inexplicably refers to the work at the 22nd Circuit Court as an Ability One program. But the 22nd Circuit Courthouse contract was not awarded by Ability One, nor under any other federal, state, or local program with the purpose of providing rehabilitation. Challenge has simply misclassified its employees with disabilities at the courthouse, subjecting them to discriminatory rules it unilaterally deems applicable. To be clear, SEIU believes the state law exemption is inappropriate altogether and should be repealed by the legislature. The modern disability rights movement has successfully challenged the idea that workers with disabilities require such exemptions to maintain their employment. Set-aside programs like Ability One are a holdover from the 1930s approach to disability employment policy, which assumed that workers with significant disabilities could not be employed by companies in the broader community. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 set out different expectations, requiring all employers to not only avoid discrimination, but also to make reasonable accommodations for workers with disabilities, to meet their needs and engage in what is now described as competitive integrated employment. But such policy considerations are not required to assert what is plainly true. Challenge Unlimited's contract at the 22nd Circuit Courthouse was not awarded to achieve any rehabilitative purpose and is not covered by the state law exemption. As such, Challenge's denial of UI benefits to workers with disabilities is both discriminatory and illegal. It should not be allowed to stand. But this committee should also do more. The committee should do everything it can to see that Challenge's employees with disabilities at the 22nd Circuit Courthouse keep their jobs if another company wins the contract when it goes out to bid. SEIU urges this committee to insist that the incumbent workers, obviously including those with disabilities, be offered the opportunity to retain their jobs under a new contract. Given that this was the practice when Challenge won the contract in 2018, it only makes sense that such precedent continue to be honored. We wish to submit for the record documents from the 2018 contracting process, which I provided to the clerk, substantiating this point. We would also note that in November 2021, the Biden administration issued an executive order and has proposed regulations requiring such worker retention on all federal contracts explicitly including Ability One contracts in these requirements. The city of St. Louis should follow its example. I'm glad to answer any questions the board may have regarding my testimony or the broader scope of disability employment policy, both as it applies to the situation at the 22nd Circuit Courthouse and more generally. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you for your time and consideration to these important issues.
Thank you, Ari. I think for the benefit of the committee as well as the general public, maybe a very, very broad overview would be helpful. So the 22nd Circuit Court has a contract with Challenge Unlimited, correct? That was issued in 2018 and is good through what time period?
I believe the rebid will be coming up in the next several months.
Okay, so in 2023, so it's a 5-year contract?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, and the contract was awarded, what entity awarded the contract? You know, who the RFP was issued through what entity?
My understanding is it was issued through the court system.
So did the 22nd Circuit Court get a budget from the city and then they issued their own RFPs, or did that process go through the city itself? Or do you know who issued the RFP to which Challenge Unlimited responded and was awarded?
Our understanding is the court system issued the RFP. So we recognize that ultimately the court system is the entity conducting contracting. Having said that, our feeling is, given that this issue affects workers living in the city of St. Louis, the Board of Aldermen has an appropriate oversight role.
I'm trying to understand whose authority it is and what just, for clarity, so we have an understanding of. I think certainly the Board of Aldermen has a responsibility to shed light on issues, and certainly we have a responsibility to weigh in. But as far as authority is concerned, it's important so that we understand how to most effectively advocate for the workers here, to know kind of, the roles of authority in granting these this contract. So, but this has been very helpful. So what we have in the drive is the 3 documents. Thank you, Claudia. I see that. That'd be very helpful. Okay, so we have 3 documents just for clarity for the general public here. We have a client handbook, which is an operations handbook. And this handbook is specific to those workers with disabilities. Is that right, Ari?
That's correct. Yes.
And is there a separate handout, a separate handbook that we may not have that is for workers without disabilities?
That's correct. We can provide you with a copy of the employee handbook, which does indicate that workers without disabilities classified as employees do receive unemployment insurance benefits.
Okay.
Helpful, we can provide that to the clerk.
Okay. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, do you prefer that we go, since there are some remaining questions and perhaps some of the other speakers may be able to kind of touch on some of those things, do you prefer that we have questions of the individual speakers, of the committee members, as we go through the speaker list, or would you prefer us to wait until maybe we've had the testimony to ask questions of the speakers in a more general sense?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Since Mrs. Spencer said she might be able to speak to some of the questions that we're having, I think maybe we should go ahead and let them speak, and then we ask our questions collectively afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Naim. I appreciate your testimony here, and we'll, with the direction of the sponsor of the resolution, ask that Ms. Center come up next. And Madam Clerk, if you don't mind swearing her in.
Could you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Center, and I am the Legal Director of Disability Rights, Education, and Defense Fund, which is a nonprofit civil rights law and policy organization founded in 1979, dedicated to advancing the rights of people with disabilities. And my organization was very active in the drafting and passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I worked with the ACLU of Missouri, who's also here today, a representative, to share our concerns with all stakeholders, including all of you, in a January 5th letter about the working conditions and terms and conditions being experienced by the custodial workers at the 22nd Judicial Circuit under the $4.4 million contract. As my colleague just reviewed, the disabled workers at the 22nd Judicial Circuit are doing exactly the same job, the same responsibilities, the same amount of work, same pace of work, but they are not getting the same compensation packet. They're not getting unemployment insurance coverage or benefits in the event of job loss. And unemployment insurance coverage and benefits are essential to our safety net, our social safety net. And we've found this particularly during the pandemic and other times of economic and social emergency. Unemployment insurance benefits save countless workers from hunger, from falling into poverty, from losing their housing. It's really critical. And the pandemic would have been far worse without unemployment insurance benefits as part of our social safety net. So I just think it's an incredibly important benefit that these workers who are doing exactly the same job are not getting. And so it should go without saying, but I will say it, it's unlawful to treat disabled workers worse, to give them a less valuable benefits package on the basis of disability when everyone's doing the same job. It's unlawful under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's unlawful under Missouri state law, your MHRA. So as Ari shared previously, the city of St. Louis does play an oversight function with respect to expenditures by the 22nd Judicial Circuit. I'm going to put, well, actually, you can tell me if this is permitted. I'm going to put a link to our January 5th letter in the chat to the hosts and panelists. So the reason that the city of St. Louis plays an important oversight role is that city officials have the authority to ensure that the expenditures by the court comply with applicable laws. And so we have a couple of case citations in our letter from the Missouri courts that explain that the city of St. Louis, or which essentially functions like a county because of your special status, that you may challenge budgets if they are unlawful or unnecessary, and that you are empowered to oversee how expenditures of the circuit court are made to ensure that they comply with state law. So there's an oversight that expenditures are necessary and lawful, to comply with state and federal laws. And so I think that because this form of disability discrimination is so overt, that it definitely is appropriate for you all, the city of St. Louis, to direct the circuit court that its expenditures on contracts should comply with these very basic laws. So that's why I think that you all play a role as an overseer to make sure that expenditures are lawful. And so based on that analysis that the ACLU of Missouri and DREDF have done, we are urging you all to urge the circuit court to ensure that their contracts and expenditures comply with federal and state non-discrimination obligations. And, we are urging that steps be taken by all of the stakeholders to retroactively pay into unemployment insurance for the existing workers and to make sure that there's unemployment insurance coverage going forward, either under the last few months of the existing contract or under the new contract going forward. We also urge all stakeholders, including you all, to take all steps necessary to select a responsible contractor for this bid that is committed to upholding industry standards and complying with all state and federal laws, including the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Missouri Human Rights Act. Finally, I'm also urging you all to take whatever steps you are able to take, whether it's moral suasion or something more direct, to urge the circuit court and the new contractor, or if Challenge Unlimited continues, challenge to retain the existing workers going forward. I understand that that's been the past practice when there's a new contract, that the existing workers are retained. And from our point of view, it's critical that this practice be continued under the new contract, whoever the contractor is, given that the disabled workers have come forward and brought this to our attention. It's important to us that these workers not experience any retaliation or interference with their rights or any job loss for coming forward and helping us shed light on this very overt and blatant form of disability discrimination. So thank you. That concludes my remarks. Happy to answer any questions at an appropriate time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Center. So Alderwoman Clark, would you mind if maybe I ask a couple clarifying questions and then we take a pause and maybe go through the committee and see if there's questions for those two speakers, or would you prefer that we have additional speakers before we do questions?
No, we can take a pause now.
Okay, so Ms. Center, just for clarification and for educating us all here, so do you know the entity that actually within the circuit court that awards the contract, and who's what is the oversight body there to make sure, with the city of St. Louis, we have the Board of Public Service, and there's some oversight there with regards to how those contracts are awarded. It's my understanding. To what body would we appeal and
so I would say the presiding judge would be where we directed our letter. The presiding judge is ultimately, my understanding, responsible for the operation of the court. I'm sure there are other people in the hierarchy that review contracts and conduct administrative functions. But I don't have more information about that. Although I imagine that my colleagues with the ACLU of Missouri and other more locally active stakeholders can provide more information.
If I may add one quick point, I briefly consulted with my SEIU colleagues, and it's our understanding that the Board of Estimate and Apportionment also has authority over this contract in addition to the presiding judge. So our position, at least SEIU's position, is that communications on this should go to both sources, both the presiding judge, which I believe is now Judge Beth Hogan, and to the Board of Estimate and Apportionment.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. And just for full clarity, has there been communication to the Board of ENA here on these matters, and has this information been shared with those, with that board?
So this is Claudia. Our letter of January 5 was sent to all of the aldermen, including all of the members of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment. And in that letter on page 2, we cite to all of the citations of the oversight role of the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, as well as the legal citations that the city / county has an oversight role, that the expenditures of a circuit court are necessary and lawful.
Okay, I think I appreciate that. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the committee members for questions. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Volmer. I can't see who all is here right now. Alderman Coder. Alderwoman Rice.
Thanks. I don't think that I have questions at the moment. So the resolution is pretty clear to me that we're saying that we are supporting these workers, and that we recognize that there's some fishiness going on here. But I hear what you're asking is for us to go further than the resolution, and to really put some more pressure on this contract, on Challenge Unlimited, to make sure that they're actually following the law, that if this is an unlawful contract, that we push a little harder. Am I getting that correctly, that's the ask this morning?
That's correct. Yes. Our feeling is that as Claudia mentioned, these workers should be covered by unemployment insurance, both going forward, and that steps should be taken to provide coverage through retroactive payments for those workers who have already been denied it. And then crucially, in the event that the contract does not remain with challenge for whatever reason, we would want to see that, just as in the 2018 transition from clean tech to challenge, workers were offered the opportunity to retain their jobs with the new contractor, that would remain the case in the event that the contract flips from challenge to another contractor with different business practices.
Okay. Got it. I don't think that I have any other questions exactly at the moment. Thank you for being in, for enlightening us on this. I did send Claudia, I sent the letter that you all sent us, and we did receive a letter from Challenge Unlimited as well. I sent that to the clerk just to be uploaded to the drive, so we all have all of these documents in the same place, so that hopefully we'll all be there. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of your speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Rice. Alderwoman Peel. I know she was here. We can come back. Alderman Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I did just have a quick clarifying question myself. Ms. Center, while you spoke, you mentioned the ADA and the MHRA, so the ADA is federal, MHRA is state. That would be the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Missouri Human Rights Act. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I used to work in public libraries, so I always like to clarify acronyms and initialisms and whatnot. So I just wanted to clarify and confirm that the MHRA you were referencing was the Missouri Human Rights Act, which, you know what, I'm going to be honest, is perhaps not as attended to as it should be with our state legislature, but that's not the point of this hearing. I'd like to thank everyone, the both of you, as well as all the other speakers, for coming today and for allowing the clarification. And Madam Chair, I would yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gross.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming and bringing this to our attention. I'm just sitting here honestly, and it's getting me mad and it's getting me fired up listening to it. I mean, I think that you're absolutely right. It's just discrimination. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. I've actually, I'm relatively new, Alder, and I actually only recently learned kind of about some of these laws in our state government that I mean, the example we heard in our Health and Human Services Committee a few weeks ago were some of these shelters that pay less than minimum wage to workers, and that frankly that kind of blew my mind that we're doing that and they can defend that. But then you have a situation like here where, like you're saying, this isn't even some sort of like shelter program, anything like that. I mean, this isn't only discriminating, it's really exploiting, these workers and making them do, jobs that we as a society have said there need to be certain laws and requirements on, and there's, they're just exploiting these workers to say they don't apply. So, I will stand up against discrimination, every time, and I will certainly support workers. I have one question though, how do they even determine who is disabled or not when folks are applying, or are they hiring, like from pools on this, or for their program in particular, since it's not like a formal workshop, they're just kind of classifying people. I'm kind of wondering, how these workers, how they say, okay, this worker's disabled, this worker's not.
So this is an area where challenges status as an Ability One contractor on other contracts other than the 22nd Circuit Court House is relevant, because under the Federal Ability One program, contractors are required to have 75% of the direct labor hours on their contract filled by workers with significant disabilities. And as a result, Ability One contractors in their onboarding process generally do evaluate the disability status of their applicants. So it appears that what's happening here is that Challenge is essentially decided to operate the 22nd Circuit Courthouse like it operates its Ability One contracts, which, I would say we have policy objections to the denial of unemployment insurance in the Ability One context as well, but this isn't an Ability One context, so it seems more straightforwardly illegal here. But Challenge has information on disability status of its workers because most of the contracts it operates and recruits workers for are pursuant to Ability One. And as a result, we believe they conduct disability determination through that process.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Shed some light on it. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing is really just awful. So I'd ask to be added as a co-sponsor to this resolution, and I'd be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like we're going to swing back around. We have some members that joined us. Alderwoman Middlebrook, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Noted. And then lastly, Alderwoman Peel, did you, looks like you're having some video issues here.
Yes, thank you, Chair Spencer. I appreciate that this resolution is brought forward. I fully support it, and it is very disappointing regarding the discrimination that's happening in terms of ability and disability. So thank you, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, for sponsoring this bill and bringing it forward.
All right, so let's go through Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Do you want to go through the rest of the speaker list in any particular order? It looks like we have a few more speakers here. That may want to
Chair
speak.
Spencer, I do see Alderman Narayan's hand up if you wanted to.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't even see Alderman Narayan. Do we have? Yes. Do we have other members of the committee here? Oh, Okay, Alderman Ryan, yes, before we go on to other speakers, my apologies.
Oh,
Expanded my view here.
no apology necessary, Chairwoman. I'm not on this committee, so I thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to echo the sentiments of some of my colleagues and note that standing up against discrimination is important in every context. And I would ask that my name be added to this bill, please, or this resolution, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ryan, noted. With that, I'll turn it back to the sponsor of the resolution to call up additional speakers.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairman. First up, we'll have Ms. Belinda Hutchison.
And Ms. Belinda, Madam Clerk, if you don't mind swearing her in.
I don't see, is she here? I don't see her.
Okay.
There is someone over in the attendees list with their hand up, but only
Yeah, I saw
identified
that.
by
but-
BM, so I
This
don't
is
know.
her. It just doesn't have, she's under Marvin King, it looks like. She has her hand up now. She's
Okay,
raised her hand.
okay.
Ms. Belinda, you may need to take off mute if possible. There we go.
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ms.
Yes. Go ahead. Hello, everybody. My name is Belinda Hutchison. First of all, I will let you know I do have a hearing disability from birth. I'm a proud member of SEIU Union. I have been in SEIU for 14 years. I have been employed at the USPS for over 30 years, and that did not stop me from having a job with benefits. When I have a problem with the USPS, a supervisor will come to me and ask me what he had to do to help me to do my job. So he recognized that I left. So he made it easier for me to have stuff written out what I had to do. So I know Marvin King had done the very best to get employees to be organized a union, but challenging limiting fired him from that. We need the court to hire responsible union contractors so everyone can be in the union with better representation. We would like to thank Megan Green and Shaman Clark Harbin for all their support in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belinda. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, did you want to call up the rest of your speakers maybe, and then we can do another round of questions?
Sure. Next up, we have Mr. Marvin King.
Mr. Marvin, I'll ask the clerk to please swear you in. Mr. King, would you mind raising your hand so we know which screen you're on? Okay, thank you.
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. King, you're welcome to address the committee.
Yes, my name is Marvin King. Challenge Unlimited, ex-Challenge Unlimited employee. I started working for Challenge Unlimited because of my disability. I got sick in 2020. I had a stroke on my left side, and my disability, I was paralyzed almost completely on my left side. I was told that I would never walk, talk, or do nothing again. So what I did, I right at the pandemic time that I have a disability. I said it sometime. During the disability during my disability, I was trying to get myself back to active working. And so I went to different programs for rehabilitation, and the rehabilitation during 2020,
was kind of limited because of the pandemic. And so after I did my own program and got myself to the point that I could work again, I went to work for Challenge Unlimited, and I felt that they wasn't treating me right, and the benefits I wasn't getting because unemployment. As I had been working there for about 16 months, I realized that they didn't have no unemployment package set up for me just in case I get laid off, and I was doing the same work as everyone in the building, and I was one of their best employees, and I was dismissed due to, I believe, because I was acting leaning towards the union because I felt that I need somebody to represent me because I know I didn't have a great speaking ability. So, and when the union started talking to me and everything, we had a lot of communication going back and forth, and they explained a lot of things to me that I wasn't getting. Supposed to be getting training for rehabilitation, and the program with Challenge, and Challenge wasn't giving me no type of training. They are supposed to do evaluation every so often. I didn't get evaluated. I was given a employee's client handbook and told me to go to work, and I went to work, and I did my best because getting up in the morning is a challenge for me all together. It's not easy. When you get up, you put your shoes on and you go. When I get up, it's a challenge. So when it all boiled down, I started talking to my other coworkers. My other coworkers, they was interested in what was going on, but every time I turn around, my supervisors, they was telling me that I can't be talking about the union, I can't be doing this, and they was steady bringing up certain issues, and they started harassing me about my job performance, which in 16 months, I had no problem at all with my job performance. They were nitpicking and doing a little bit of everything to harass me and get me upset, and which I can't take stress because of my disability. And they stressed me out to the point that maybe I might have said some things and that wasn't proper, but I don't talk to people with a harsh voice. I try to be kind and nice to people because that's the best way to be. But they had really treated me badly, and all in 1 week I ended up putting it short and to the point. All in 1 week I was fired. I was rolled up one day, fired by that Friday, and I don't feel that was right. So the union's been talking to me and been working with me, and they were saying that we're gonna see if we can help me out and get me back my job or find some type of resolution to the job. So I would just like to thank everybody for coming together and listening to my story and supporting me. And my name is Marvin, and y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. And I believe we appreciate your testimony today. And then Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, I believe you have one more speaker. Is that right? Or do we have two?
One more, Mr. Martin Wilson.
Okay. Mr. Martin, if you don't mind, there we go. We've got your hand up. And Madam Clerk, would you mind swearing him in, please?
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, you may proceed in addressing the committee.
Okay, my name is Martin Wilson. I was working for Challenge for 14 months now. When I first came to Challenge, they told me not to, when I first got hired, they told me I'll be working with clients. I didn't know what was a client, and they told me it was a person with disability. They told me not to give them a ride at the bus stop, not to share nothing with them. They was treating them like they was bad. They told me not to, if I bring my lunch and I have extra soda or something, they told me not to even give it to them. And I said that was wrong of them for telling me that, because they people too. and they told us not to give them, like I've said, not to offer them a ride to the bus stop or whatever. And be cold as mug. They want them to do what they got to do. So, and then I've been working there 14 months. I started being a flow tech. I never did no flow tech, stripping floors, waxing floors, shampoo and carpets. I've been doing bathrooms, doing the elevators. I never did what I supposed to been doing. I didn't understand that at all. And I'm still doing the same thing. And on Martin Luther King Day, they said that we was off, but we not getting paid for it on the holidays. We only get paid 4 holidays a year. And they told me that I can use my vacation day for Martin Luther King. So why should I use my vacation day? That's supposed to be, I'm used to being off that day. They wanted me to work, you know. Now I'm not a client, you know, I was hired as a flow tech, but I'm cleaning bathrooms, I'm doing everything else besides flow tech. And they treat the clients, I tell them they people, I don't know why they got that client for. And they say not to do nothing with them. No, don't show them what to do or nothing. I said, I don't understand that at all. So I'm gonna call myself, that's all I have to say about it. But thank you for listening to me.
We appreciate you being here and presenting your testimony today.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, did you have any additional speakers? I thought I saw one pop in.
Are you thinking, did she just pop back in as well?
She did,
I'm not
or
sure.
they did, yes.
Caitlin
I believe.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity to share my testimony.
If we can, just one moment, we'll go ahead and swear you, get you sworn in. Madam Clerk, do you mind?
Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Okay. My name is Caitlin Ong. I serve as the Policy and Campaigns Associate at the American Civil Liberties Union. And on behalf of the ACLU of Missouri and our approximately 15,000 members statewide, I would like to express our support for Resolution 168. As Claudia has mentioned earlier, and a lot of the speakers, I'm just going to echo what they've said. We partnered with the Disability Rights, Education, and Defense Fund in addressing disability discrimination at the 22nd Judicial Circuit of Missouri Courthouse. And for 5 years, Challenge Unlimited's $4.4 million contract, which is going to end in June of 2023, has been relatively cheaper for the city in provisions for janitorial services. Challenge Unlimited cuts its costs by hiring individuals with significant disabilities and categorizing the disabled workers as clients rather than employees. And on that basis, denies them the unemployment insurance coverage that their non-disabled workers enjoys. And so the city's savings comes at the cost of these workers, and the lack of unemployment insurance causes obvious harms to persons with disabilities trying to survive in the current social and economic climate. So under the Federal Americans with Disability Act and the Missouri Human Rights Act, Challenge Unlimited is prohibited from classifying its disabled workers differently and providing them with lesser benefits. And so this is in contrary to the city ordinances, which have been long proclaimed that discrimination against individuals on the basis of disability should be intolerable here. And as outlined in the demand letter that Claudia sent as a link in this chat, I'm just going to go ahead and say them for the record. The city and circuit court leaders should direct Challenge Unlimited to immediately begin and continue paying its Missouri unemployment insurance for all of its workers at the circuit court, including workers with disabilities. The city and circuit court leaders must challenge Unlimited to retroactively pay into Missouri unemployment insurance for all disabled workers at the court past and present, who were unlawfully labeled clients, going back through the duration of the contract, such as all affected disabled workers are made whole and may seek unemployment insurance on the equal basis with the non-disabled workers. The third point, Challenge Unlimited in the Circuit Court in the City of St. Louis must take affirmative steps to communicate with past, present, and future custodial workers that they are entitled to unemployment insurance, even if they have been unlawfully mischaracterized as clients. And lastly, the workers who have brought this overt form of disability discrimination to our attention must not experience retaliation or interference with their rights. And the new contract should require that contractors offer unemployment to the existing workers at the circuit court. So we appreciate that the committee's recognition of this urgent matter. This resolution is a great step forward in taking affirmative steps to ensure that future custodial contracts for court facilities provide humane and lawful compensation packages to workers regardless of whether they are disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. And with that, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, maybe we'll take a pass through the committee for questions of the second round of speakers. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Vollmer. Alderman Kochar has an excused absence. Alderwoman Rice.
Sorry. Hi. I don't have any questions. I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor on the resolution. It's my understanding that this has been brought to the attention of the courts multiple times, of the board of E&A multiple times, and we haven't had action yet on the requests or the demands from ACLU and from SEIU and from the workers here. And so I'm not sure exactly what the next step is if we as a committee want to, kind of adopt the letter from the ACLU, from the, I'm sorry, you had a great acronym, the dread of DRED, from you all, and say, this is what we need to do here, because it's, I think it's really interesting, the legal analysis on, what exactly is our authority here. But if we, just trying to figure out how do we escalate this, right? This resolution is great, but how do we escalate this a little bit further? A number of us, along with colleagues that are not on this committee, have shown up and walked with you around the courthouse. We've stood in front of City Hall with you, but that hasn't gotten the attention yet. So I don't know if this resolution doesn't do it, then what's our next step, I guess, is really my question for my colleagues here as well. It seems, the law is able to be interpreted lots of ways. I know that we have issues in Missouri. We need to eliminate the discrimination against employees with disabilities, period. But this legal analysis, this letter from the ACLU and from the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund looks great to me. And if it's something that we want to attach maybe to the resolution, Madam Chair, I'm not sure what the right next step here is, but if we, attach this to the resolution and direct that we're sending this to the mayor's office, to the president of the board, to the comptroller, and to the new judge in charge of the 22nd Judicial Circuit. And I would love to do that if we just attach this as a follow-up on the resolution. Maybe that's the quickest way to do that here.
I have some thoughts on how we can proceed, but I think we'll go, maybe, I appreciate your thoughts, especially as we're kind of figuring out what might be best to do. And we'll go through the rest of the committee here on questions for the speakers, and maybe circle back through that. Alderwoman Peel. I think she was having some video issues. Oh, there we go. Alderwoman Peel, did you have any questions for the second round of speakers?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Alderman Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. first and foremost, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. So I'd like to join my esteemed colleagues on this resolution. And just to sort of clarify, this was so the court systems have put out an RFP, they put out a contract, or they have a contract with this third-party company that then brings on employees, correct? So this is a third-party company who's taken this action that has a contract with essentially the city of St. Louis. Would that be correct, Madam Chair? Okay.
That is the understanding, correct, that we have today.
But per city ordinance, per city law, I guess my question, which does not need an answer now, but do city contracts and requests for proposals and that entire process, do they not have essentially severability clauses? What would be severability clauses to us, dictating that, you know, in the event of a discriminatory practice or an act of discrimination or so on and so forth? I mean, does the city, I suppose my question would be, does the city not have the authority in light of this situation to terminate the contract with this third-party company? I mean, surely we have contractual recourse. And it seems really sort of damning, I think, if I might opine, that, you know, it is February 1st, you know, and while we are trying to do our due diligence and our best within the legislative authorities that we have, it seems like this is something the city, as a broad and sort of perhaps nebulous entity, should have already taken care of. And I can't imagine that we would be nevertheless locked into a contract, even in light of discrimination, unlawful discrimination at that. So I think that would be a question that I would have for, say, the comptroller or for the courts. Why do we still have this contract if why? You know, why does discrimination ever exist or be allowed to continue to exist? So sort of a very large question. Again, that's not, I'm just putting it to the committee as an observation. I would be interested to hear, Madam Chairwoman, your thoughts on moving forward after this, because I will say that a resolution doesn't feel like enough. Although I do not mean to insult the Alderwoman from the 26th by any means. It's just in light of, well, whenever discrimination is present, I mean, you're speaking to one of two openly gay elected officials in the city of St. Louis. I understand discrimination. So whatever you believe whatever additional steps you believe would be appropriate, Madam Chairwoman, I'm eager to hear and support those. With that, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Stevens. Alderman Gross.
Yeah, I want to thank the additional speakers that we had. That was kind of, you know, very disheartening to hear that, you know, along with discrimination and exploitation, these guys are also retaliating against workers that are talking to unions. And I think it's also, I want to note for the record, because I think it's awfully telling that Challenge Unlimited didn't come to the hearing today. You would think, you know, if I owned a business and, you know, the Board of Aldermen or any entity that I was conducting businesses was having a meeting to discuss, you know, my employment practices and calling me a, you know, discriminator, I would show up to defend myself and explain myself. So, you know, the fact that they're not even here today, I think is very telling. As I agree with the other comments, you know, my only idea of a next step is, you know, can't we just write an ordinance that says, you know, anybody that contracts with the city, all those employees have to meet the standards of the MHA, you know, the Missouri Human Rights Act and ADA and all other relevant things? I mean, can't we just, you know, say baseline, every employee has to meet these requirements? It doesn't matter, you know, if they try to have some exception for something else. I mean, that's just an ordinance we can pass requiring it. Just an idea. I'll be interested in my colleagues' further thoughts on next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Do we have any other additional alderman from outside the committee that were here? Was Alderman Ryan still present or anyone else? Okay. With that, I too want to echo Thank you to all of our speakers here. It takes a lot of courage to speak out against your employer, especially one that fails to provide basic level of protection to its workforce. You're putting your jobs, your livelihood, your families on the line to be here on behalf of yourselves and your family and your other fellow workers. So we really, really appreciate your time and the bravery that you are exhibiting by being here today and your camaraderie. Thank you to the other speakers here. Thank you to the sponsor for bringing this to our attention and shedding light on what truly, at least as the facts are presented here to this committee here, of really a shameful practice of the employer. And I have to say that I'm ashamed that our tax dollars are paying for a contract that fails to protect workers equally across abilities. And I'm grateful for the opportunity as a legislative body to weigh in and hopefully find some resolution and next steps as far as that is concerned. I think a couple of things were opined by the committee. Ending the contract, I want to say I have some concerns about doing that abruptly, Alderman Stevens, just because we do have an end in sight here with 2023 June. It's my understanding that we may have an opportunity here. I would hate to put the current workforce in jeopardy of losing their jobs immediately in that regard. But with respect to the upcoming contract and RFP, I think it is very critical that we figure out who issues that. It sounds like the Board of E&A is that responsible body. So directing our concerns and next steps and appropriate future behavior to that body. It sounds like previous communication to the Board of E&A has gone unaddressed. I think we should confirm that, but be willing as a committee and perhaps the full board to issue, in addition to maybe considering fully this resolution. It would be my suggestion that as a committee, we could work on a letter directed to the Board of E&A, directing the Board of E&A that the laws as it pertains to the state have not been, it appears to the best of our knowledge, followed with this contract, and that we would further request that the RFP that would be issued prohibit this type of contracting to take place, that we prohibit that RFP prohibit any employer that would be awarded the contract from treating its employees differently based on ability or any other measure that could be discriminated against, and that we direct the issuing body of the RFP to retain the workforce that we currently have, as was the practice, but that we direct them to include that in the RFP so that we can protect those workers that are still on the force. And with that suggestion, we could perhaps put together a letter on that behalf, and the alder persons that feel they can sign that with us would be welcome to do so. Alderman, the last suggestion from Alderman Gross about an ordinance, I think that is something we could consider. However, given the timeline where we are in the legislative process, seeing that we are unable to introduce further board bills this session, and that the contract's right around the corner, I think the best course of action would be to leave that to the next body, but be prepared as this body to issue that letter to the to the Board of E&A alongside hopeful passage of this resolution by the full board. And hopefully that can see a different process in the RFP moving forward for this next round. And I would be happy to work with the sponsor on that, and perhaps we can have some of the folks who have testified here today participate in drafting that. That would be my suggestion at this point. With that, again, thank all of our speakers here. I'd like to take a vote on passing the resolution out of the committee so that it can be considered by the full board. But before doing that, I would like to also direct the clerk to add my name as a co-sponsor as well. And with that, with no further, more further comment, unless anybody wants to comment on the suggestion I just made for a path of next steps. I'll take a hand raise so we don't have to go through a roll call if anybody had any comments on that. And with that, I'll hand it back to the sponsor for request for favorable passage of resolution. What number are we at here?
168.
168, excuse me, to the full board.
I want to thank you for those recommendations for the next step, Madam Chairwoman. I think they were on point. I want to thank the speakers today for your bravery, for coming out and speaking out loud, using your voice and letting us stand with you in solidarity and amplify your voices here on this platform today. That's what we're called to do. Dealing with this kind of issue is a little personal to me. It's not a little personal, it's very personal to me because I care for a disabled sibling, and I would absolutely want somebody to advocate on his behalf the way that we are advocating on you all's behalf today, and the commitment that we're making to stand in this gap and carry this on forward right in the next step. So with that, I absolutely ask my colleagues for a favorable consideration and do pass recommendation on resolution 168.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion that we pass resolution 168 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Thank you all. Seeing that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Varmer, Alderman Couture, Alderwoman Middlebrook, Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel,
Aye.
Alderman Stevens,
Aye.
Alderman Grass,
Aye.
Chair Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Varmer, Alderman Couture. We have 6 aye votes.
With that, congratulations, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. We've passed resolution 168 to the full board with a due pass recommendation. Thank you all again for joining us today. With that, the last order of business, I think, is excused absences, of which we had Alderman Coder. I'd like to also recognize the other absent alders as excused for this committee hearing. And I believe we have no further business. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you all again for your service to our city.